A big cool down is on the way for areas out west, ending the heat wave for them. Plus, it will set up a chance for severe weather as we head into next week. Happy Friday, everyone. We got a lot to get to in this update, so we're going to get right to it and take a look at the big picture. You can see a pretty significant trough that will be building in for those areas out west. That is a good sign. If you don't like those triple digit temperatures anymore, those temperatures are going to be dropping in a big way, and a drastic difference of what you've been feeling as of late. But here's the remnants of what was Francine that they're still dealing with some very heavy rain off a good portions of the southeast, while much of the middle of the country is going to be warming up in a big way. Those winds are going to start to turn around from the south, and that is a warm wind. Those temperatures are really going to be elevated, and summer 2.0 is going to be on full throttle over the course of the next week across the middle portions of the country, in portions of Canada and the northern tier along the Great Lakes, and really much of the Northeast as well. So if we take a look at the overall satellite picture, you can see what's happening. There is the swirl up here into Arkansas. That is what's left of Francine. We also have another little disturbance off the coast of the Carolinas as well, but we have newly formed tropical storm Ileana that's in the Pacific. That's lifting northbound and will actually head to Cabo San Lucas as a tropical storm. So those will spread its remnants into portions of Mexico and spread some cloud cover into New Mexico as well as into West Texas, while way out there in the tropics we do have yet another storm that could come to fruition. This is Tropical Depression 7, which would likely become Gordon later on today, but it's not really going to be expecting to amount anything. This is going to be just remaining out of the open waters and likely going to be fizzling out over the next couple of days after it becomes a named storm. But you can see where we're talking about here with the remnants of the low pressure center that's highlighted across areas of Arkansas. There's the path which was Francine, and you see this little stationary boundary here. That is going to set the stage for very heavy rainfall, and that's why we do have some flash flood watches in effect for those areas into Alabama. Say the Birmingham area, you're going to be getting several inches of rain, if not even more than that today. So if we look at the overall big picture, so show you what we're talking about, here's the elongation of that tail of the front with the low pressure center setting up in Arkansas. You got that right front quadrant still, right? As those winds turn around, that is going to be producing some very heavy rain into high water content values. So that's why we do have some flash flood watches in effect starting going into tonight, going into the day tomorrow, with that very heavy rain just kind of training into western Tennessee, but especially through the Birmingham region, going through portions of Atlanta and down here into southeastern portions of Georgia over the next day or two. And you can see what we're talking about over on the water vapor imagery. There is Ileana that's going to be impacting the Cabo San Lucas area. There's the low pressure that's highlighted across Arkansas. And then it's on the right quadrant of that. That's where all the moisture is going to be taking effect. And that's where you could be looking at some very heavy rainfall, if not some flash flooding conditions as well, because the water content values is pretty high. I mean, whenever you see these areas in red, that's upwards to over 2 inches potential at any given time the atmosphere has to produce as far as rainfall rates on an hourly basis. So yes, obviously with those rainfall rates so extreme, so high like that, doesn't take much to produce flash flooding. If you get a little supercell thunderstorm that just kind of sits over the same area, can squeeze out that atmosphere, and you get these big huge water droplets, and could definitely lead to excessive rainfall, torrential rainfall, and that flash flooding could unfold. But it's really across this boundary where the kind of the stalled frontal boundary is there in western Tennessee, areas into a good part of Alabama, leading into Georgia, and then the low pressure center that's highlighted across the Carolina coast, that is also going to be kind of sitting and spinning just in very light steering currents. Could come back into play as we head into next week with continued very heavy rain in a good part of the southeast as well. But with the main, what we'll be highlighting is this pretty significant trough that will be diving southbound. And whenever you see this kind of a little bit of a bowling ball type trough, that's not only going to bring some cooler anomalies for much of the west coast, but that's also going to be clashing with that warm air mass across the central US, and that's always indicative of potential of severe weather. And I think that actually gets going on Tuesday with the overall temperature drop big time. And we look at that, over 20 if not 25 degrees below average in portions of California and Nevada. You're definitely going to be feeling the cool down in a big way. And yes, even for those areas into Utah, Southern California, Arizona, even New Mexico gets into the action, where that cloud cover and the instability with these low pressure centers, that's where you're going to stay below average for portions of the southeast. And then of course, during the dry spell across the middle part of the country, those temperatures are going to be elevating, and that's why you're into that, summer 2.0, criteria. But, overall, if we're looking at some low temperatures, I mean, this is where we stand, folks. I mean, these temperatures are going to be dropping pretty big time, especially some of the higher elevations dropping into the 30s and 40s for low temperatures. But it's completely the opposite with, middle 70s showing up in a good part of Texas and upper 60s all the way up to Minnesota. So these are low temperatures, folks. So yes, these temperatures are going to be pretty warm across the middle part of the country, but it's also going to be dry across the middle part of the country and a little more unsettled where the remnants of Francine and then that low pressure center that will be meandering off the Carolina coast would likely be moving inland by then during the day on Monday, still impacting the southeast. While yes, we do have some beneficial rains that will likely sneak into Arizona and dropping those temperatures and ending the heat streak in Phoenix as well. So here's the setup with that more significant trough as it continues to dig further south, and as it digs, it's going to be impacting those areas in Arizona. And yes, this is finally coming to fruition, folks, for those areas in Phoenix that have been almost 4 months have not seen a high temperature less than 100 degrees. That heat streak will be finally coming to an end. You can see on Sunday and Monday, the expected high is 96, but also look at the rain chances, 40 and 60% chances of rain as well. So that's also going to be a welcome sight, and that continues to drop. You'll be hard pressed to even pressing 90 degrees many times this summer. That was your low temperature, if not much warmer than that. So this is obviously going to be feeling almost chilly for you guys out there after you've been baking in the 110, 115 much of summer. So but overall, here's the concern as we head into Tuesday with that more significant trough. Will be, entering and kind of clashing into that warmer air mass. That's definitely always a concern, likely setting the stage for severe weather heading into the panhandle of Texas, western Oklahoma, western Kansas, there into Nebraska, getting into the Dakotas. This is a favored area that I think is going to be under the gun starting on Tuesday, even into Wednesday. And it seems to be looking at the same type areas almost day after day after day, because it doesn't really have much influence with steering it off to the east. It kind of stays in that same pocket right along that eastern portions of east of Denver, there right along this region of the the panhandle of Texas, western Oklahoma, western Kansas, getting into central portions of Nebraska, as well as into the Dakotas through Minnesota. This seems to be a favored area that looks to be not just Tuesday, Wednesday, and likely even Thursday, is there's that low pressure center, right? It really hasn't gone anywhere. It likely moves ashore by then, still wringing out that precipitation, continue to remain unsettled across the Carolinas and much of the Southeast. And here's the dew points, right? So you got that south wind elevating those dew points well up into Canada. You got the dry line out west, and it kind of just sticks there across western portions of Oklahoma and Texas Panhandle. That will likely set the stage for numerous rounds of severe weather starting on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. The continued cooler anomalies will continue for a good part of next week. So it's going to be looking completely the opposite of what you've been experiencing as of late, as a much cooler air mass will be entering the picture really for an extended period of time. And the middle part of the country continues to remain on the well above average side, lifting those temperatures all the way up into the upper Great Lakes as well, with those higher temperature anomalies. And looking even on Friday, right, that dry line type setup doesn't really go anywhere. So you're talking Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, even Friday now, looking at more possible rain, showers, more unsettled conditions, and likely some severe storms along this boundary. And again, even on Saturday, it really doesn't go anywhere. You see, you kind of get stuck with this low pressure center off the Carolina coast. You got the dry slot in the middle. You got the more unstable air mass just off to its west, and you got the cooler anomalies off the west coast. Kind of looks like this, right? So you got the cooler trough over the next 7 days, really going to be impacting those states of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, Montana, getting into portions of Wyoming, Utah, Colorado there, into Arizona, California, Nevada. All those areas would likely be below average pretty much all of next week. More unsettled conditions continue to remain for the Southeast, and for those areas across the central portions of the U.S. continue to remain on the well above average side, well up into Canada, well up into the upper Great Lakes, across the UP of Michigan there, into the mid-Atlantic, as well as into the Northeast. So guys, I appreciate you guys watching. Do like this video, definitely hit the subscribe button, and catch my next update, why I protect you before and after the storm.